Well, now that that's done, we take the key out of the ignition. Unless you disconnect the battery, you got to take the key out of the ignition. That way, you remember at least something is not quite right. Do you know what I mean? You shut the engine switch off so it doesn't start as soon as you hit it. You take all the bolts out and all these, all these side bolts out. This one down here. You take all these bolts out, and you take all these two screws out, and you take these two plastic fasteners off, and then you, of course, you got this on the top, pry it out, and you take the side panel off. Mine has got LEDs on it, so it has to be hung up here somehow and not go too far astray. Which that does right there. Okay, you get the point. It hangs on the side, right? Okay, these are my horn wires. I put my horn down here inside the fairing because if you own a CBR 600, that when you do a wheelie, the horn smashes into the radiator. So, I moved my horn. Extended the wires. There you go. Now what I have to do is go over here and I take this bolt out right here, this one. This bolt right here. It's a plug right here. This plug right here. Take that out. Pretty sure it's a 12. Might be. Oh, I guessed. I guessed that it's a 12. That's tightening, I think. Yeah, that's tightening. Yeah, that's right. Going the wrong way already. Oh, that's tightening. Oh, this must be loosening. Oh, yep, that's loosening. Yeah, that's loosening. Okay. So you watch the header, because the header's warm. This is a plastic bucket after all. And then you go like this. Now, don't be worried if you drop this in your oil pan, because you can get it out after it's cool, but you could always just pull it out and get it out. But, do you know what I mean? Rather than get oil all over your computer, because you're recording this like I am. You know what I mean? You can just drop it if you want to. There we go. Perfect. And the oil's coming out. We can see it, right? You guys can see the oil coming out. I hope you can. There's the oil. It's coming out. Oil's coming out. Here's the plug. I take the plug and get a piece of paper towel right away. And that way you don't have oil all over the place right away. I don't know why I have this. I don't know why I was holding on to that all this time. I don't know why. He was laying here somewhere. Well, the oil is coming out of the crankcase via the drain plug. What you can do is go over and you take the cap off. You don't have to take it off all the way, but you loosen it off and the air pressure releases any of the oil that's in there. And then you put the cap back on. You don't have to put it on all the way tight, but just put it on. So you put the oil cap back on. And then you know where your oil cap is. And while it's still draining like that, it'll dribble for a while. We go back over here to the most important part of this oil change, of course, is we have to change the filter. Now this header's warm. Ooh, you don't want to touch it too long, but it's hot. Let's not say that. You guys hang out for a bit, I'll be right back. Well, now I want to tell you something. I've seen lots of people change an oil filter before. This is what I use. Okay, 1/2-inch drive. This is how I change my oil filter. This is an oil filter wrench if you've never seen one. This is what it looks like. It's an oil filter wrench. So, to remove the oil filter, we have to go one direction here with this. Which what we do is we have this wrapped up on there, you see, like that, right? Okay, if you've never seen this, they're relatively easy to use. Oil filter wrench onto the oil filter. Just make sure you put it on right. Get it on there, and actually I don't think I need to use an extension, so I won't. Sometimes I do. Sometimes you don't. Apparently I don't. Today, I need to use the extension. Now this will gradually tighten up, and voila, she starts to spin off. And then you loosen it off. Let it slide back. Then it's off. So we'll readjust this and we'll spin this off. And you see how much oil comes out. And that's why I take the fairing off, because I don't want the oil inside of this nose piece. So, and then you have less chance of getting your headers all oily, because it smokes like a bugger. So that's the filter and the oil change. The draining the oil. The relatively simple procedure that you have to follow. You take the filter off. And then of course you clean this as much as you possibly can. You should make sure that you wash your bike before you change the oil. Just because if there's dirt that's on this edge of this filter, when you take it off, it'll go inside of here. And to be honest with you, I'll be totally honest with you, the thing that I'm doing wrong is I'm using paper towel. Shouldn't use paper towel, but I do. It's paper filter, right? But you know what I mean? It's the lint that they don't like. Should be a lint-free rag, but I used a rag with lint. Sorry. So I'm going to put the filter on. I've got this motor oil. It's 1040 Suzuki. So I probably paid a couple bucks extra for the fact it's a Suzuki motor oil. I don't know, it don't matter. All I know is that the dealer gave it to me. And they're pretty good to me. So, doesn't really matter. They're pretty good to me. And so what I do is I take a little bit of this oil, right? I know people don't want people, but you know what? I'll put my finger in it. Too bad. I take a little bit of the oil and I just lightly oil this with the motor oil that I'm using, right? And then I put some on the threads on the inside of this too. Even though those are oily threads, I put some on here just because now I can feel there's no burrs, but watch you don't cut yourself. Do you know what I mean? You just put a little oil on there. It's not going to hurt, you know? It's oil, right? Not going to kill you. So, you put it like this. Unless you're drinking it, you're just going to probably make you a little messed up. Don't drink it. Oil, that is. Okay, and then I put the filter on. Okay. So I put the filter on. And then I make sure there's no oil on the filter. I use a paper towel again. Yes, I did. Then I'm going to take my wrench that I have, right? And unwind it. I'm going to wind it the other direction. And I know some people will say not to do this, but I don't have a lot of muscle strength in my hands, so I actually am going to just tighten it up a little bit here. On here, like this. Whoops. And it will tighten up. The oil filter will tighten up on here a little bit. And you can feel that it's tight. You know, that's all it really needs to be is hand tight. And that's basically what I did, right? Then you make sure, absolutely, the next thing you definitely do after you get the filter on, you can see that most of your oil is out of your engine. You absolutely put this plug back in right now as soon as you know that the engine oil is drained, right? I guess I could maybe tip the bike center just to drain a little more oil out of it. I don't know. Maybe we could do that. Nothing's coming out, right? Okay, so we know it's empty. So we put the plug on. Or we can shake it up a little bit maybe. Seem to help drain a little bit more out. But that little bit is okay because you're changing your oil quite often. You're not messing it up, are you? Or are you not changing it very often? We're gonna let it drive for a little while. Good enough. This is Minute Lube after all. Hey, there you go. And basically that's a side stand oil change. You got to put the oil back in. You take your 12 millimeter, and when you put this plug on, as soon as you put it in, you don't go and walk around, have a coffee or something. You actually tighten it up as soon as you put it in. Because then, if you don't do it now, you might forget. You come back after you smoke your coffee or have your joint or you drink your beer, or don't do that while you're doing this because you'll fuck it up. So, maintain a sober attitude while you're doing it. And you'll have a great oil change. And that'll be it. And that's the end. Then, of course, you put the oil in appropriately. The appropriate amount of oil in. You know, button all this up.